Okay, Ellie. Okay, hi everyone. It is such a pleasure to have you with us again in another one of our Education USA events. I would like to remind you a couple of things about our presentations and our sessions. We ask you to please remain muted and with your video off. Remember that we will have at the end of the session 10 minutes for Q&A. So please type your questions in the chat addressed to Q&A Elizabeth, okay? And remember that this session will be recorded and available on our YouTube channel. In this case, since I'm an advisor in Mexico, it will be in our YouTube channel for Mexico. So hello everyone, my name is Ana del Arenal. I'm the advisor for Hidalgo, it's a state in Mexico. And I will start with what is Education USA, okay? So remember this session is about the steps to study an undergraduate degree in the US. Here with me, I have my friend and guest speaker, Joe Knight from the University of North Texas. And he will be talking about optional and curricular practical training, okay? I would like to start with what is Education USA. So Education USA is a global network of advising centers from the US Department of State. There's more of 400 advising centers all over the world. And our main audience are students in our regions, HEIs, which are higher education institutions, either in our regions and in the US, governments and NGOs. We provide access to introductory information on the US studies. And so this is the first session. We started a project of the region. Our region is the North America, Central America, and the Caribbean, as you can see on the map. And well, there's 56 centers in the region. And this is the very first session, so we are all very excited to start this project. So there are a lot of frequent asked questions that we receive as advisors, but I'm gonna comment like the principles or like the most common that we get. So do we offer scholarships? No, we as Education USA, we do not offer scholarships for tuition. We only have one scholarship and it's not in every country. I can speak for Mexico that we have the Opportunity Funds Scholarship, but this is a scholarship that covers all the admission side of the process, of the entire process. It's only for the admission part, okay? So for example, we pay for the standardized exams. Maybe if you need to go to the embassy to get the visa, we also pay for the visa, for the fees, for the admission fees. We help you with your essays. We help you with your CV, with letters of recommendation, but we do not pay tuition. So that is very important. This scholarship, the call opens every year. So for the case of Mexico, it will start around in December, November, December. So please stay tuned to our social media to know more about this scholarship. Do we offer English courses? Yes, that's another of our services. Not our services, we do not teach English, but the universities in the US, they do have a language center where they offer English courses, right? It's not very common that universities will give you a scholarship or financial aid for these courses. I know of very few universities that might give you a little help, but not all of them, okay? Do we have agreements with US institutions? No, because we are part of the US government. So we cannot give preference to one university than the other, right? So we do not have agreements. We represent all of the universities in the US. So that's something also important. We cannot tell you where to study. We can help you find the university that best fits you, but we cannot tell you go to this specific university, okay? And do you offer support for an academic exchange? We as Education USA advisors, we prefer, well, we suggest or the idea is that you study the entire program. For example, here, for an undergraduate degree, we want you to go for the whole 4 years, okay? So that of the exchange of 1 semester or 2 semesters, no, it's for the whole program, right? Okay, so I'm gonna start with research your options. That is our first step for Education USA. And so here is basically all your work, and you will come to us and we will help you here, but we cannot decide for you. So here you have to do your research. You have to know that there's more than 4,000 accredited higher education institutions in the US. So that's plenty and more than plenty options for you to choose from. So you need to think about what do you want to study. You need to define your priorities. Maybe if you want to study something related to oceans, to sea life, well, I will suggest to go to the coast, to any part in the US that has sea and oceans, because those universities will have those programs that you are looking for, right? Maybe if you're looking for something that a program related to agriculture, well, also do your research and look for a city or for a state that has these qualities, or that you know that there are enterprises or that there's things related to agriculture, right? So that's very important to define your priorities and what do you want. But also you need to think, well, a lot of things, but the cost of living, you need to think about maybe if you are used to studying in small schools with, let's say, 30 persons group, like 30 to 1 ratio, then I wouldn't suggest you to go to a huge university where the groups are of 500 students, because you won't have the same you know, I mean, like the professor won't have the time to answer your, if you have any doubts about the class. And there's a lot of things that you need to think of, right? So we will help you with this by asking you things so that you find a university that best fits you, right? But there is something very important. You need to make sure that you the university that you are applying to is accredited, because this is going to take a lot of time, a lot of effort from you, and we don't want you, I mean, what if it's not accredited and then your studies are not going to be valid, right? Okay, so there are different types of institution for an undergraduate degree. There's community colleges and universities and colleges. So community colleges are mostly public institutions. They are smaller institutions where you can start your undergraduate program, and you can study 2 years, and then you can transfer those credits to a university of college and study the other 2 years and then have a bachelor's degree. Why do we talk about community colleges? Because the requirements are less than a university. The cost is more affordable than a university. And like the dates to apply are also more flexible. So we suggest for you to research if it's any of your interest to start at a community college, right? And then the universities, well, you know, there's private and public institutions, and there's more diversity. They are bigger, and they will also have more opportunities, and also think about your extracurricular activities. If you like maybe arts, if you like sports, there's infinity of groups that you can go to at a university. So here in orange, you can see some of the online searchers that we suggest you to use to find that school that will fit your needs. So in these searchers, you will type if the program that you are looking for, if you want a private or a public institution, if you wanted to have certain qualities, and then you will have a list of institutions that have those specific things that you are looking for, right? So here we suggest you to have a notebook, or maybe in your computer to have a document and type everything that you are finding. I mean, like, I would suggest you to use 1 page per university and say, okay, I found this university and I like it because it offers maybe financial aid to international students, but also because it has this program, but it's also related to this other program that also I haven't decided, so I have both options, and everything that you think it's important, write it down so you can at the end compare and you can reduce, because you will find so many universities, but you need to reduce those options. So we in Education USA, we will suggest you to apply definitely to more than one. I would say at least 5 universities, because this is gonna take quite a few months of your time. So might as well do it right. Find a couple of universities of your interest, just to make sure that at the end you will be accepted to one or more institutions, okay? So our second step is finance your studies. And I think this is a very important step. So this is something that you need to start planning as soon as possible. You need to talk to your parents. You need to maybe, if you can, maybe talk to your principal, to the people at your school, because if you are like a great student and maybe you can receive any type of help from your host institution, from the high school that you are currently studying, and maybe they can help you with something, that would be great. But also you need to talk to your parents to see if they have savings, to see if they can help you with some, with some money or something for your studies. You need to know that the cost of living in the US is very different from one state to the other. It's nothing like to study in California, because the living cost is very expensive, but also maybe if you go, for example, I don't know, Mississippi, I know that it's a state that it's very affordable. So those are things that you need to keep in mind, okay? So look for ways to reduce your expenses. Maybe you are thinking, oh yes, I'm gonna go to the US and I wanna rent a really nice apartment. Yes, but that's gonna cost, and it's gonna cost more than it cost here in Mexico in my case, okay? So maybe for the first year you wanna maybe live on campus, they have dorms, or maybe you If you are in contact with the university and they tell you there are more students, international students, and maybe you can have roommates, that will reduce your expenses as well, okay? And look for special opportunities and financial aid. In case of Mexico, there are no financial aid in our country. But if you are watching from another country, I would suggest you, and that's another slide, to go to your advisor, to your closest advisor, and try to find ways to maybe obtain another type of financial aid from your country, okay? And something very important, it says, send your financial aid application along with your admission application. Yes, many universities, when you are applying, that application is also for financial aid because they know that studying in the US is expensive. So you don't need to submit another application for financial aid, but this is something that you need to research on the website from the university and just make sure that it's only one application or maybe it's two applications. Make sure of that. I will always suggest, even if you use these searchers, this is very important. You need to go to the university's website always, because I've seen that sometimes the searcher says something and the website says something else. And I will tell you that the website from the university, that's what you need to take into consideration. That's like the real deal or like the real information, okay? And here you have an example of the cost of studying at a private university, a public university, and a community college. At the end, if you see the total cost, that is for 1 year. So you need to multiply that by 4 because you're going to be staying there for 4 years. In case of community colleges, remember it's for 2 years, then you will transfer to a university. But just so you have more idea of the cost, okay? Okay, and as I mentioned, for Mexicans, the only source is the United States institution in the United States, because here in Mexico, you won't find any type of financial aid. In other nationalities, I will suggest you to contact your closest EducationUSA advisor and see if there is any other opportunity for you, okay? Okay, and then step number 3 for EducationUSA, complete your application. I have to tell you that in our centers, we have a very wide library, and we have books of all of these topics that you can see on the screen. So if you need a book of any of these topics, you can go to the center, you can use those books. You cannot take them home, but you can stay there as long as you want, and maybe take some pictures from some parts that you need. And yeah, because we cover pretty much everything related to the admissions, and also related to, for example, programs related, for example, medical field, or for example, engineering field. So I think you should definitely go visit your closest EducationUSA center. And okay, so the requirements. The requirements, you will need to fill out an application online. And in that application, you will be submitting your transcripts, which are your calificaciones. You need to send the scores for your standardized test, but also for your English test, that I don't have it here, but also English test, letters of recommendation, essays, and if you are studying something related to the arts, then you will need to submit a portfolio, okay? And as you can see, for community colleges, the requirements are only like maybe filling out the application, maybe your transcripts, and maybe paying for a fee, and maybe an essay, but not very common. For university, there's more requirements. And also very important, go and see on the website of the university the requirements, because since 2020, a lot of universities stopped requesting the standardized test. Others didn't ask for letters of recommendation. So that's something very important. Each university will have different requirements. Don't think that this is the law. It is not. So make sure of each university that you want to apply to that you are that you have the requirements that they are asking for. Okay. And then the application and application fees. So the application fee depends on the university. It can be from maybe $50 up to $100. And here at the beginning, you can see that there are different websites or applications for you to complete your application. If you are applying to more than one university, I definitely suggest you to use an application. The most common one that I know of is the Common App. So there you upload only once your transcripts, your standardized test, your English scores, and the requirements, and you don't need to do it again and again for every university. You just do it once and send it to all the universities, okay? So that makes your life a bit easier. And about the application fee, you can request an application fee waiver. I've seen with my advisees that when they watch a webinar from a university, they offer them a fee waiver after watching a webinar. So that's a tip that I give you, and keep in mind if you decide to start this process, okay? And then my slides are not changing. Okay. Okay, so then we have the English test, and you have different options. You can decide which one, or maybe not you, but if the university says either IELTS, TOEFL, or Duolingo, I would suggest you Duolingo because it's less expensive than the others. It's more affordable, but this is something that you need to make sure that the university is giving you the options, because some of the universities will only accept one or the other, okay? And then for the letters of recommendation and essays. Letters of recommendation are very different than the ones we are used to in my case in Mexico. They have to be deeper because the people that will write these letters of recommendation are people that really knows you, that can speak about a project that you did with them, or maybe your development in class. And so this is something that some universities will ask for, and you need to ask people in your, maybe in your school, in your high school, some professors to write these letters of recommendation, and they need to be written in English, okay? And for the essays, there are different types of essays. There's the personal statement, there's the study objectives, and they have different, that's where you need to write different aspects of your life. For example, the personal statement is more about you, what you did and what you are doing right now. And the study objectives, it's about why do you want to study in the US? Why do you want to study in that specific university? Why that program? How do you see yourself in the future after you finish that program? What do you want to do when you go back to your country? Some projects that you want to develop, or where do you want to work at, and things like that, okay? With these two, we can help. We have a lot of resources online. We have videos, we have webinars, we have books. So as I've been saying, contact your advisor because we are here to help you, okay? And finally, the calendar. So I just want you to see this calendar. Here, as you can see, it's a year and a half of a process. It's a long process, okay? But you need time, because if you want to go this next August to the university in the US, you won't have time because, first of all, universities have closed the dates for you to apply, so you don't have the time. But also writing the essays, asking for letters of recommendation, taking the SAT or ACT, the English test, that's a lot of requirements. So you need time to prepare every step, okay? So if you want to take a picture of this calendar, you can. But I would tell you to start as soon as you can. If you are about to finish high school, don't worry, because maybe you want to start working while you prepare for studying in the US, or maybe I don't know, you have a lot of options, okay? And so that was the end of my presentation. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a little bit, and I'm gonna let Joe Knight start with his presentation.
Hello, good evening. Let me share my screen and I will get going here. Okay. Okay, does my screen look okay?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Anna. That was great. A lot of information. My name is Joe Knight. I'm with the University of North Texas in Denton, Texas. And it's a pleasure to be here with you all this evening. A little bit about me. Once upon a time, a long time ago, I studied in La Universidad Anáhuac in Mexico City. And since then, I've been to Mexico many times, from Nuevo León all the way down to Chiapas. I know some of you may be in Central America and in the Caribbean. I have not yet been to Central America, so or the Caribbean. So I hope to see all of you in your regions one day. But I'm going to talk about two programs that are available to international students who come to the US to study, and they are called OPT and CPT, Optional and Curricular Practical Training. Okay, so first of all, what is OPT and what is CPT? Basically, these are government programs, US government programs, that allow international students to temporarily work on their F1 student visa. And the work needs to be directly related to your studies. So just a little bit about the two differences. CPT is typically a job or an internship while you are enrolled as a student. So this could be during the summer, or it could be during the fall and spring semester while you're studying as well. OPT, this typically occurs after graduation. How long do these programs last? So CPT, typically, as I mentioned, it's going to be a semester. It can be extended. For OPT, it's typically 1 year after you graduate. STEM degrees, which stands for science, technology, engineering, and math, those degrees have an option to extend OPT 2 additional years. So the total time would be a possibility of 3 years. There are a number of considerations for both of these programs. Both of these programs do have a very involved application process. There are very specific rules that you need to follow in order to apply and be able to participate in these programs. Really, I wouldn't worry about that right now, though. You know, until you're on a US campus, then you can start to think about, okay, how do I apply? When do I need to start? All of that. But some of the considerations I have here, CPT can affect the length of your ability to do OPT. So they can overlap, and it can affect that. And then an OPT position must be secured within 90 days of your academic program completion. And then I put a note here that says check with your DSO. What is a DSO? We have all these acronyms, CPT, OPT. A DSO is what we call a designated school official. And we're going to talk more about that. Oh, it's not letting me. 1 second. Slide. Okay, there it goes. Okay, that was really delayed. Okay, so you're going to need help and you're going to need advice on these two programs, okay? If you go to the United States to study, typically you're going to have at the very least 2 different advisors. One's going to be your academic advisors. So this advisor is going to help you navigate which courses to take and when to take them so you can graduate on time. Then you're going to have another advisor, and they have different names depending on the school. At UNT, we call these ISSS advisors. So International Student and Scholar Services. Some universities just call them ISS advisors. All of these advisors are what we call designated school officials. So their responsibility is to make sure you keep your visa. It is a very, very important responsibility. It's basically to make sure you follow all the rules so that you keep your visa and you can complete your studies. A big part of what they do is helping you navigate the CPT and OPT application. So it's very, very important that you connect with your ISSS advisor. Your first year, as soon as you're on campus, get to know who that person is and meet with them regularly. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about what you should consider when choosing a university and thinking about CPT and OPT. So some things to think about. What do I plan on studying? What type of experience do I want to acquire from CPT and OPT? Then you need to do some research. Where in the US is this experience available? The United States is a huge, big, diverse country, and there's many different regions. Some regions are economically very prosperous. There's lots of jobs, there's lots of activity, there's lots of opportunities for CPT and OPT. And then there's other areas where the economy is very challenging, where it may be more difficult to find a CPT or OPT opportunity. So you need to think about, where is the university? Is it in a growing economic region, or is it in a region that's more stagnant? Is it in a rural location? Will I have to move to participate in CPT and OPT? And some international students do that. They will attend a university that may be in a rural location in a small town, or it's far away from a big city, but then they find a CPT or OPT experience in a city that might be, 2 hours away, 3 hours away, and they may have to move in the case of OPT because it occurs after your studies. And then you need to think about, how do I plan to use my experience when I return home? And think about, does my CPT, OPT experience have a connection to my home country? And I'll give you an example. In Texas, wind energy is a big industry. Why? Because Texas is very flat, and parts of Texas are very, very windy. So you'll see large windmills and wind farms, and that's a growing industry. Now, will that experience, if you were to do a CPT or OPT experience with a wind energy company, will that help you when you come back to Mexico? I'm not sure. I don't know if Mexico has a big wind energy industry. I'm not certain. I do know that Mexico is very mountainous, though. There's many, many mountains, and Texas is very, very flat. So these are just some things to think about. So STEM, STEM 2-year extension. I just wanted to mention this again because we do have many international students who come to the US for STEM degrees because they are able to extend their OPT for 2 years. So you need to research your degree to understand if it qualifies as STEM. Unfortunately, as you research universities, you will see that not every university will immediately tell you, this is a STEM degree, this is not a STEM degree. So you have to research a little bit and you may have to ask. In general, though, anything in the sciences, technology, so information technology, computer science, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, any of the engineering disciplines, so anything from civil to mechanical to electrical, and then mathematics. So if you major in math, that's obviously STEM degrees. Some universities have started to expand their STEM programs. So you need to research and just ask to be sure. Okay, there we go. Okay, so one way to understand in the United States where jobs are growing and where jobs maybe aren't growing is to look at where people are moving to. So this is a map of population trends from 2020 to 2022. So right after the pandemic, just the past 3 years here. All of the states in blue indicate that people are moving there. The population is growing. All the states in that dark orange or brown or light kind of tan means people are leaving the state. They're losing population. As you can see, California is orange. In the past 2 years, this is the first time in the history of California they have lost people. A big reason is because of the cost of living. It's very expensive there. However, many, many international students go to California. So some population trends in the top 5 states. So here is the change from 2010 to 2020. So we just looked at the last 2 years. So these are the past 10 years from the past census. Texas, I'm going to talk more about Texas because that's where my university is located and that's where I'm from, so I'm familiar with Texas. But you can see Texas is growing very, very rapidly along with Florida. So many, many jobs there, people moving there. New York is growing less, Pennsylvania less. Actually, those 2 states lost population in the past 2 years, as well as California. Okay, so I know maybe not everyone is on this call is from Mexico, but this is a graph that shows the amount of trade that Mexico has directly with Texas. So as you can see, what does that tell you? That tells you that there's many, many industries, there's many companies, there's many organizations that have connections between Mexico and Texas. So Texas is a strong consideration when you're thinking about CPT and OPT job opportunities. This is just another map real quick. This is showing all of the headquarter relocations of companies that are moving to Texas. In this case, they're moving to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So you can see the long list from California and from other states that are moving to Texas, partially because we have low taxes and it's a little bit more affordable to live. So looking further at Texas, so let's just use Texas as an example. Now you could research any state you would like to. If you're interested in Arizona or California or Florida, you can go through the same exercise. But as you can see, there are about 4 major urban areas in the Texas area. So you have the Dallas-Fort Worth area, you have Houston, Austin, and San Antonio. So now what you can do, and you can go through the same exercise depending on what you're interested in, you can then research the top industries in each of those areas and then look at what universities are nearby. So in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, one of our top industries is finance and insurance, information technology, defense, transportation and logistics. Of course, a lot of that transportation and logistics is between Mexico. Fashion and merchandising, healthcare, tourism and hospitality. So Dallas-Fort Worth area is a big convention center. So there's many, many businesses that will have conventions and conferences in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It's not necessarily tourism like, like Mexico, like nice beaches and mountains and all of that. We don't, we don't have that there. But some of the universities nearby are UNT, which I represent, UT Dallas, UT Arlington, Texas Wesleyan, and then we have, those are the public universities, or Texas Wesleyan is private, and then some of the private universities, Southern Methodist University, University of Dallas, which is a Catholic university, and Texas Christian University. So those are some options that are closely connected with these industries in Dallas-Fort Worth. Houston is the big energy capital of the United States. So if you're interested in anything to do with energy, and it doesn't have to be necessarily oil, it could be renewable energy or natural gas. But healthcare is also huge there. The medical center is one of the biggest medical centers in the world. Shipping, information technology, aerospace and aviation, and then of course, transportation and logistics. And then some of the universities in Houston, the public universities, you have the University of Houston and Texas Southern University. Then you have a private university, Rice, which is very, very selective. It's like the Harvard of Texas, I guess you could say, and Houston Christian University. Austin, San Antonio, I lumped them together into one kind of area because they are both very, very close together. Austin and the San Antonio area is kind of like the Silicon Valley of Texas. So they are very, very big on information technology, telecommunications, automotive, finance and insurance, as well as government and nonprofits. So if you're interested in social work or something like that, that's a really good area to be. And then of course, the universities that we have there, the University of Texas at Austin, which is the #1 public university in the state of Texas, University of Texas San Antonio, Texas State University. Those are the three big public universities. And then you have private universities, St. Edward's, Southwestern University, and Trinity University. And I'm also, these are just examples. I'm not listing all of the universities in these regions, but most of the big principal universities. And then you have universities in Texas that are in a small town or they're in a rural location. So you have Texas A&M University, Texas Tech, Baylor, West Texas A&M, and Stephen F. Austin. So Texas A&M University, they have some of the best engineering programs in the United States. So you will have many international students that will go to Texas A&M University, and then for their OPT, they may end up going to Houston, but that's an hour and a half away, and they will most likely have to move to do their OPTs. So it's just something, it's something to think about. It's something to consider whether the university is in a rural location where you may have to commute or move, or whether it's connected to a large metropolitan area with many different types of industries. Okay, I've talked a lot about Texas. I'm going to briefly mention some what I call special economic regions of the United States. So these regions are hyper-focused on these specific industries. So the Silicon Valley, which you may have heard of in California, is the technology capital of the United States, one of the technology capitals of the world. There are selective universities there like Stanford and the University of California, Berkeley, which are very selective and they're very expensive. But there are also more accessible public universities like San Jose State, San Francisco State, and Cal State East Bay. The area as a whole is extremely expensive to live, but there are many international students who go there and they find a way to make it work. Michigan is big on automotive. It is our automotive capital of the United States. And as you may or may not know, but at least in Mexico, there are very, very strong links between the automotive industry in the United States and Mexico. So there is a selective university, the University of Michigan, but then there are also more accessible, more affordable universities like Michigan State, Kettering, Wayne State, Michigan Tech. New York City, it is the finance, fashion, and the arts capital of the United States and one of the capitals of the world. So if you are interested in finance and you want to do your OPT on Wall Street, there are opportunities there. Of course, it's expensive. My finance professor in La Nahuac, he did his master's and PhD in NYU in New York City, so it's possible. There's selective universities there that are expensive, Columbia, New York University, and Barnard. But then there are also more accessible universities like Pace University, Manhattan College, and the Pratt Institute. And then Houston, we talked a little bit about Houston. It is the energy capital of the United States. And we talked about Rice as being the selective university, but there's also more accessible public universities there as well. So I'm not going to read through each of these, but these are just examples of OPT, CPT experiences. You will be required to provide a written statement to your university that that shows how your experience connects to your major, because your CPT or OPT experience has to directly connect to your major. So it has to be related to your major. It can't be unrelated. So just some tips. So you want to research. What do you want to study and what type of experience do you want to acquire? Where can you find this experience in the United States? And then what universities are nearby? Plan early. If there's anything you take away from this presentation, if you go to the US to study and you want to do OPT or CPT, talk to your ISSS advisor about the application process your first year. Start planning ahead. Prepare a network. So the university that you attend, they're going to have a lot of different activities. They'll have industry events. They're going to have resume and interview preparation hosted by your university. There will be clubs that are relative to your major or that are involved with your major. So join those clubs. Create a LinkedIn profile and connect with alumni in the US and in your home country. So start planning and networking. And then you need to plan for your career after CPT and OPT. How will your CPT, OPT experience translate to your return home? So build industry connections in your home country. It's possible, you know, many multinational and US companies have offices in Mexico. Many are in Mexico City, but you know, there's many throughout all over Mexico. So that's also something to think about. Okay, we have a little bit more time left. I'm gonna see, we have about 10 minutes. So I'm gonna quickly tell you a little bit about the University of North Texas, and I think we'll do Q&A. So again, I'm with the University of North Texas. On the left, this is what the town looks like. This is the town of Denton. And then on the right is the university. We are a large public tier 1 research university with about 47,000 students. We currently have over 7,600 international students, which is a lot. So there's many international students that come to us. We are located in the town of Denton. So this is a map of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, or what's also called the North Texas region. You have the two big cities, Dallas and Fort Worth, but then we're a little bit north. We're about 40 minutes north in a town called Denton. It's about 140,000 people. It's a very nice college town. It's very spacious. It is more affordable than living directly in the city of Dallas or Fort Worth. And we're just north of the airport there. So here are our 11 what we call colleges, and underneath each college we have many different types of majors. So as I mentioned, we are a tier 1 research university, which puts us in the top 3% of research universities in the USA. We do we do have what I would call accessible tuition. So tuition for 1 year is about $21,000. However, for students in Mexico, we do have a waiver. It's basically a form you fill out online that will reduce your tuition to $11,500 a year, which is basically as if you were a Texas resident. We call it in-state resident tuition. On top of that, we also have scholarships. So it's very possible that you could receive the waiver, the Mexican waiver, and then also receive scholarships. If you're not from Mexico, we do have scholarships that could also reduce your tuition to the in-state rate, just like the Mexican waiver. And we are located in a growing high-tech region with many, many diverse CPT and OPT opportunities. Okay, so this is one of my last slides. This is just a CPT case study. So this is an example from Ernesto from Celaya. So I spoke with Ernesto this past week. We had an interview, and Ernesto did his bachelor's degree at UNT in logistics and supply chain management. He then did an internship with a Swedish company called Tetra Pak. It's a large multinational company where he was an integrated logistics intern, and that took place in Denton. And then now he moved back to Celaya, and he currently works as a materials planner for Mabe. And so just to tell you a little bit about his path and how he got his CPT experience. His first step was searching, and he said he spent a year and a half searching. So like I said, you have to prepare, you have to start early, talk to your advisor early. And he looked at job fairs, Indeed, LinkedIn. He got connected with Tetra Pak at a job fair that we had on campus. They liked his profile, and then he started the interview process. So there were 2 interviews. He had a general interview with human resources, recursos humanos, human resources. And then he also had a job-specific interview with the manager. And his manager was actually from Venezuela, so they had a connection there. Then the next step is documentation. Okay, so this step is very, very important that you work with your advisor. So the employer, so the employer gave him documents that he then had to get signed and completed with the help of his advisor. And he also needed a letter from his professor, because his program, this logistics and supply chain management program, actually requires an internship. It requires CPT in order to graduate. And then after he finished his documentation, he started his 4-month internship during his final year. Some of the skills he said he learned that have helped him with his current career with Mabe is networking, interpersonal skills, intercultural communication, self-sufficiency, departmental organization in a multinational company, and process standardization. He said studying in the United States and working at Tetra Pak was a life-changing experience. I am providing his LinkedIn on a QR code. So Ernesto said he would be more than happy to connect with you on LinkedIn. If you have questions, if you want to chat with him about his experience, he would be happy to connect with you. And I think that's all I have. I also have a QR code here that connects to a video about UNT called the College Tour. It's pretty cool. There's a section in Spanish where one of our alumna from Monterrey, she talks about her experience as an international student. So really, really cool. I think with that though, I'll stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Joe. That was a wonderful presentation. Now we're gonna go with my colleague Elizabeth to see if because I know there's some questions from the audience. Hi, Liz.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, there are some questions. The first two questions, I invite Annie to answer them. And after Annie, Joe, we invite also you to complement the information if you'd like to. And the first question is, I have finished my degree in El Salvador as a teacher, but could I study English to improve my skills in a community college?
Hi, yes, of course, you can go to a community college or a university or a college. They all offer these courses, and depending on where you want to study, it depends on the length of the course. It can be from 4 weeks to a couple of months, and there's plenty of options. So I would suggest you to go to Martita Carranza, the advisor in El Salvador, and see with her some of the options.
Great, thank you, Annie. The second one, it says, I'm 21 years old and I'm from Costa Rica. This year I finished a university degree in business, university baccalaureate. I would like to study a second university degree related to business in the USA. Can I apply and be a candidate?
Yes, of course, you can apply. There's no limit of age to go to Education USA and ask for advice and for guidance. So actually, our colleague from Costa Rica is here. So Marijo, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Ana. Yes, I'm from the office in Costa Rica. We are located in Centro Cultural Costarricense Norteamericano. So if you have, if there is more ticos here that have questions or want advising, you can contact us to the email that I will send to the chat. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And the second, the next questions are related to OPT and CPT. So we invite Joe to answer them first, then Annie, if you'd like to complement them, you're welcome to do so. So the first one says, do associate's degree also get 2 years for STEM OPT?
So it does need to be a 4-year degree. For STEM OPT, yes, associates are typically what we call in the US, those are 2-year degrees that you can get at community colleges. And then typically what you do is transfer to a university to finish the next 2 years. And then you would be able to participate in the OPT or STEM OPT program if it's a STEM degree.
Thank you. The next one says, do CPTs also apply for theoretical programs?
Theoretical programs, I'm not sure exactly what's meant by that, but I do know that CPT, in theory, a wide range of majors can participate in CPT or OPT. Some of those examples that I showed you, that I didn't read through them each one because it was a lot. I realized we were kind of low on time, but like a music major can do CPT, OPT. One of the examples is she was doing music therapy in a hospital, playing a harp for someone. So even if it's an arts degree or something like that, you can participate in an OPT or CPT experience as long as it's directly related to what you're studying.
Great, thank you, Joe. Next question. Is the OPT or the CPT guaranteed? Do any of them have a cost?
So that's a really good question. So are they guaranteed? So it is competitive. It is like a job. It is like temporarily going into the workforce in the United States, where you need to prepare a resume, you need to interview, and you have to get the job. So to answer your question, no, it's not guaranteed. However, if you put forth the effort and you prepare your resume well, you prepare well, then there's a really good chance that you will be able to participate in CPT and OPT. And the program that I mentioned when I talked about Ernesto from Celaya, his program made it a requirement that he has an internship. So he was able to, get some guidance from his professors and get some guidance from people in the industry. So he was able to get that experience. So no, it's not guaranteed, but if you prepare well for it, and there's opportunities nearby, then there's a really good chance you can do it.
Okay, next question. Well, it says, hello, Joe. I've been recently admitted to the UNT College of Music. I have a private scholarship and also a UNT scholarship that qualifies me for in-state tuition. I will be going with a J1 visa. As a musician, I feel my working options for out of financing are pretty limited. So I want to know if you could guide me as to where to look. Or if, for example, private tutoring in music is possible for a J1 holder.
Okay, so these were getting into kind of specific visa questions, which is going to be, first of all, congratulations. I'm so glad you're coming to us, and the music school is great. That's fantastic. Let me leave my email though, if I can. Should I just put my email in the chat?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, Joe, please.
Okay. Because that's something I want to connect you with. You may already be working. If you're a J1, I imagine you may already have been connected with an advisor there. If not, then I can help you connect to them. But the J1's a little bit different, and I don't want to misguide you or put you in the wrong direction, but I will be happy to connect you with people who can assist you and answer those questions.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. So is there any other question, guys, that you'd like to ask? Because there are no other questions here in the chat. So
I think we have one more that someone sent to the Facebook, and it says, do associate's degree also get 2 years for STEM OPT?
Okay, I think that was the first question we had. So it does have to be a 4-year degree.
Sorry. Okay, great. Then I think we don't have more questions. Joe, Marijo, Elizabeth, thank you very much for being part of this amazing event. Joe, thank you so much. I would like to tell you in the audience that next month, Maria Jose from Costa Rica will be presenting the graduate degree studies in the US. It will be May 30th at 5 p.m. CST. And she will be, do you want to share about your topic, Maria Jose, with your guest speaker?
Sure. We will work with a university from Haven with Kelsey Kelsey is the representative that will be joined, and we will talk about the difference between a CV and a resume. Because sometimes when we see the requirements, we see both and we think it's like the same and we only send one, but it's very important to have two different documents. So the idea is for us to explore or for the representative to explain the difference so you can have the two documents complete and in the right way. So I hope you will join also so you can start knowing about this.
Thank you so much, Marijo. And finally, I would like to present here that we're gonna be having another event next week with Joe, and it's gonna be about pretty much everything you need to know if you want to study an undergraduate degree. What is BS, BA, BBA, and the credit system. And Joe, would you like to share something else?
Yeah, I think that's, yeah, it's just kind of to help you navigate the US undergraduate system because it is different. It may be different from where you're from. And hopefully we can give you some clarification on how it all fits together with your program of study. And yeah, it'll,
Yes.
there are a few little extra things in there too I'll throw in. So it'll be
Yes.
good.
Thank you so much, Joe. So please stay tuned to our social media for you to know more about our events. And finally, Maria Jose is gonna type on the chat our official website where you can look for the closest advisor in your region, in your city, in your country, and go to them and start the process if you are interested, because this is open to the entire public. So thank you very much to all of you, and this is the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.